The bell rang, signaling the end of another miserable school day, but Jaden Carter didn't move. He lingered at his locker, gripping his sketchbook tightly against his chest, hoping to avoid attention. Too late. Tyler Dawson and his crew swaggered down the hallway, their laughter sharp and predatory. Jaden tried to slip past, but Tyler's meaty hand shot out, snatching the sketchbook from his grasp. "What's this, loser? More of your creepy drawings?" Tyler sneered, flipping through the pages as his friends crowded around, jeering. Jaden's stomach twisted as Tyler tore a page clean out, a portrait Jaden had spent weeks perfecting, and crumpled it into a ball. "Oops." Tyler smirked before tossing the sketchbook into a nearby trash can. Jaden lunged for it, but one of Tyler's lackeys shoved him hard into the lockers. His phone clattered to the floor, and before he could grab it, Tyler scooped it up, waving it tauntingly. "Maybe I'll text your mom for you." He laughed, pocketing it as the group sauntered away, leaving Jaden humiliated in front of the watching crowd. The vice principal, Mr. Green, had seen the whole thing. Jaden's heart leapt. Finally, someone would do something. But Green just sighed, adjusting his glasses. "Boys will be boys, Jaden. Don't take it so personally." Jaden's fists clenched, but he said nothing. What was the point? He dug his sketchbook out of the trash, the pages bent and smudged, and trudged home, his throat tight with unshed tears. At home, Jaden plastered on a smile as his mom, Danielle, called out from the kitchen. "Hey, baby. How was school?" Her voice was warm, but Jaden couldn't meet her eyes. "Fine," he muttered, heading straight for his room. He knew she'd noticed the missing phone, the way he moved stiffly to hide the bruise forming on his shoulder, but he couldn't bring himself to tell her. Not again. He'd seen the helpless fury in her eyes the last time he'd confessed, how she'd marched into the school only to be brushed off. He couldn't put her through that again. But Danielle Carter wasn't a woman who missed much. A former undercover detective, she had spent years reading people, spotting lies in the flicker of an eye. She knocked on his door later that evening, holding a mug of hot chocolate, their comfort ritual. "Talk to me," she said softly, sitting beside him on the bed. Jaden shook his head, but then she saw it, the torn sketchbook peeking out from under his pillow. Gently, she pulled it free, her jaw tightening at the ruined pages. "Who did this?" Her voice was low, dangerous. Jaden swallowed hard. "It doesn't matter. The school won't do anything." Danielle's eyes burned. "Try me." The next morning, Danielle stormed into Principal Harris's office, her tone razor-sharp as she demanded action. But Harris, a balding man with a smarmy smile, leaned back in his chair. "Mrs. Carter, Jaden's a sensitive kid. Tyler's just playful, boy's roughhouse. It's not bullying." Danielle's nails dug into her palms. "Playful? He stole my son's phone. Destroyed his property." Harris waved a hand. "I'll talk to Tyler, but let's not blow this out of proportion. His father is a very generous donor." The unspoken threat hung in the air. Back off. That night, Danielle sat at the kitchen table, seething. She'd spent years taking down criminals, only to watch her own son suffer because some rich kid had connections. Then it hit her, an idea so absurd it might just work. Digging through an old storage box, she pulled out her undercover gear. Wigs, colored contacts, even a fake student ID from a past operation. A slow smile spread across her face. If the school wouldn't protect Jaden, she would. The next day, Jaden slouched into homeroom, dreading another day of Tyler's torment. But then the teacher announced a new student. "Class, meet Dani Collins." Jaden's head snapped up, and his blood turned to ice. There, in ripped jeans and a hoodie, her hair in box braids and a smirk on her face, stood his mother. She met his wide-eyed stare and winked. Jaden's stomach dropped. This wasn't just a bad dream. This was war. Jaden's fingers drummed anxiously against his desk as he watched Dani Collins saunter into the cafeteria like she owned the place. His mother, no, Dani, had somehow perfected the art of being a teenager overnight, from the way she slung her backpack over one shoulder to the effortless way she tossed her braids over her shoulder. It was surreal, like watching an actor in a role they were born to play. She spotted Tyler's table, the kingdom of the school's elite, and made a beeline for it, sliding into an empty seat without invitation. Jaden's stomach twisted as Tyler looked up, his usual smirk faltering for just a second before curiosity took over. "Who are you?" Tyler asked, sizing her up. Dani grinned, popping a grape into her mouth. "Dani Collins. Just transferred. Heard this is where the fun people sit." Jaden wanted to sink through the floor. This was a disaster. But then something unbelievable happened. Tyler laughed. Not the cruel, mocking laugh he reserved for his victims, but something almost genuine. "You got balls, new girl," he said, nudging his friend Marcus. "I like that." Dani shrugged, leaning in like she was sharing a secret. "You should see what I heard about Mrs. Henderson's wig collection in the teacher's lounge." The table erupted in laughter, and just like that, she was in. Jaden exhaled slowly, his grip on his lunch tray loosening. Maybe, just maybe, this insane plan could work. But playing it cool around Dani was harder than he thought. In English class, when she slid into the seat next to him, he stiffened, his pencil snapping in half from the tension. "Relax," she muttered under her breath, passing him a note that read, "Act normal or you'll blow this." He forced a nod, but his hands were clammy. Across the room, Mia Rodriguez, a quiet girl who Tyler had tormented for her stutter, watched them with narrowed eyes.
Great.
If anyone could sniff out a lie, it was Mia. She'd been the target of too many to not recognize one. By the end of the week, Dani had fully infiltrated Tyler's inner circle. She played the role perfectly, laughing at his jokes, feeding him harmless gossip to solidify her place, and even subtly steering him toward his own downfall. During a study hall, Jaden overheard Tyler bragging to Dani about how he'd hacked into the school's system to change his failing grade in chemistry. "My old man pays the teachers to look the other way, but why risk it when I can just fix it myself?" Tyler smirked, oblivious as Dani's phone, strategically placed on the table, recorded every word. Jaden's pulse raced. This was it, real evidence. But then Tyler's gaze flicked to him, and Jaden quickly pretended to be engrossed in his textbook. "Why do you keep staring at us, Carter?" Tyler sneered. "Jealous I'm giving Dani all my attention?" The words hit Jaden like a punch. Worse was the way Dani played along, flipping her hair and laughing. Maybe he's got a crush," she teased, winking at Jaden. Tyler's grin turned wicked. "Yeah? Well, back off, loser. Dani's out of your league." Jaden's face burned, but he forced a shrug. Whatever. Inside, he felt sick. This was his mom, for God's sake. But the act had to hold. The stakes skyrocketed when Mr. Dawson visited the school for a donor luncheon. Jaden was in the hallway when he saw Tyler's father pause, his eyes locking onto Dani with a flicker of recognition. Mr. Dawson frowned, like he was trying to place her, and Dani, ever the pro, casually turned away, pretending to text. But Jaden saw the tension in her shoulders. That night, Dani pulled him into her room, her voice low. "Tyler's dad remembers me from a case years ago. If he figures it out, this whole thing blows up." Jaden's chest tightened. "Then we need to move faster." The emotional toll hit Jaden hardest that weekend. He found Dani, back in mom mode, making his favorite pancakes, and the guilt crashed over him like a wave. "You shouldn't have to do this," he blurted out, staring at his plate. "Risk your job, your reputation, just because my school sucks." Dani set down the spatula and pulled him into a hug. "Listen to me," she said firmly. "No one gets to make you feel small. Not Tyler, not his dad, no one. And if I have to play undercover teenager to prove that, then so be it." Jaden hugged her back, his throat tight. For the first time in months, he felt like maybe, just maybe, they could win. But time was running out. With Mr. Dawson suspicious and Tyler's cruelty escalating, the clock was ticking. And Jaden knew the final showdown was coming. The morning of the spring honor assembly buzzed with nervous energy as students filed into the auditorium. Jaden's palms were slick with sweat as he adjusted the flash drive in his pocket, the one Mia had given him, loaded with screenshots of Tyler's cruel group chats and doctored photos he'd sent to vulnerable classmates. Across the aisle, Dani, still in full undercover mode, sat with Tyler's crew, her expression unreadable. Jaden caught her eye briefly, and the subtle nod she gave him sent a jolt of adrenaline through his veins. Today was the day everything would change. Principal Harris took the stage, droning on about school spirit and exemplary behavior as he prepared to present Tyler with the Student Leadership Award. Jaden's stomach churned. The hypocrisy was suffocating. Then, as Tyler swaggered up the steps to applause, Dani suddenly stood. Actually, her voice cut through the noise. "Before we celebrate, there's something you all need to see." Before Harris could react, she grabbed the mic and plugged her phone into the projector. The screen lit up with Tyler's smirking face, his voice booming through the speakers. "My dad's got Principal Harris on a leash. A few grand donation, and suddenly my bullying complaints vanish. Pretty sweet deal, huh?" The auditorium erupted. Harris turned ghost white as students gasped and teachers surged forward. Then, in one fluid motion, Danielle yanked off her wig and wiped away the makeup that had softened her features. "My name is Danielle Carter," she announced, voice steady despite the chaos, "and I came here to expose the truth." The room went dead silent as she tapped the screen again, this time playing Mia's evidence, pages of hateful messages, stolen test answers Tyler had sold, and worst of all, a video of him shoving a sobbing freshman into a locker. The fallout was immediate. Harris lunged for the mic, but a school board member, who'd been sitting in the audience, stood and blocked him. "You're done," she spat. Tyler's father stormed up the aisle, face purple with rage, but Danielle didn't flinch. "The police already have copies," she said coolly. "Try suing us. I'd love to see how a jury reacts to your son's leadership." Behind them, Tyler's so-called friends had turned on him, shouting accusations of his other misdeeds now that his shield of invincibility was gone. In the chaos, Jaden found himself pulled onto the stage. The mic felt heavy in his shaking hands, but when he spoke, his voice didn't waver. "I stayed quiet for months because I thought no one would care," he said, scanning the crowd. "But silence just lets bullies win." He locked eyes with Mia in the front row, then with the freshman Tyler had tormented. "If this happened to me, it's happening to others too. We need to do better." The applause was deafening. Weeks later, the changes were undeniable. Harris was replaced by an interim principal who immediately implemented anonymous reporting systems and mandatory sensitivity training. Tyler had been expelled, his father's reputation in tatters after an investigation into the bribes. Best of all, Mia and Jaden had launched the school's first peer support group, their first meeting packed with students who'd never dared speak up before. The local news dubbed Danielle the Mama Bear hero, but at home that night, the only recognition she needed was the sketchbook Jaden shyly handed her. Inside was a detailed drawing of her as a capeless superhero, standing tall in front of the school with the words, "World's Best Mom," in bold letters across the top. Danielle pulled him into a hug, her voice thick with emotion. "You're my hero too, kid." Outside, the sunset painted the sky in golds and purples, the same colors as the bruises that had started it all. But now they just looked like a new beginning.